This is Danny with QuadLugs, and we're going to install the CC3D controller. Pretty simple process. We have a CC3D controller with a case on it being repurposed. We'll go ahead and take the case off. Some of them that we'll be furnishing with our box quad kits or either with our box quad stem kit may come with the case on it or the case off of it already. So if it does come with the case, you just take these 4 screws off, and I would suggest to save the case. You never know when you'll want to put it back into it and install it on something else. But we'll go ahead and take the 4 screws out. And when you do, there it is. Okay. And this is how we're going to use it with this install now. This is where your motors are going to tie in or connect to the controller. And looking at it this way, it's on the case. If you get it with the case, it's listed here. The motors, 1 through 6, and here it's listed, or it says, the orientation of the pins. Here is the signal, and then the plus or the positive, the power, and then the negative, which is the ground. And the way this is oriented is that the top would be your signal, and then the middle would be the power or positive, and the bottom would be your ground or the negative. Okay. Also, this is where we're going to plug in the USB to connect it to the computer right there. Okay. And this plug here is going to be used for our wiring harness to the receiver, and we're going to do that when we install the receiver. There's a couple of different receivers you can use, satellite receiver and even an S-bus. That's what's pretty unique about this particular CC3D that we use. But we'll get into that whenever we install our receiver, and that'll be on the next video. But for right now, we're going to connect our motor wires to the ESC, and we're going to get it installed onto our stack. There's an arrow here, and that's it right there, and that's the direction of flight on how you would normally install the controller. This is going to be front of the quad, this is the back. The arrow's facing forward toward the direction of flight. But we're going to install it 90 degrees to the left so that we have easy access to the USB that will be connected in the future to put it on the computer to do the setup on this. None of the motors are going to work. Nothing's really going to work until we plug in the USB and pull up the computer program and go through that setup. So don't be alarmed if you turn on your transmitter, nothing's going to work. That's going to come in the future after we do that. Okay, but for right now, we're going to get this installed. If you look at your wiring diagram that came with your ESC, this is the wiring harness here, this particular one right here. And here it says negative plus 5, that's your power. And it says ESC 1, 2, 3, 4, and then VBAT. We're not going to use VBAT on this particular one. We're going to tape it up so it doesn't, short out against anything. We're going to use it in the future, not now though. So we're going to go ahead and hook up our wires to the controller. Again, remembering that this is motor number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So again, we wrote this down here. Motor number 1, which is here, is going to go to ESC4. So the first white wire is 1. The second white wire is 2. The third is 3. And the fourth is 4. So motor number 1 is going to go to ESC4. And the top is the signal, middle is positive, bottom is ground. So we're going to go to the signal, which is the top. So this is going to be on motor 1. Okay. Motor number 2 is going to be ESC2. So again, the first white wire is 1, second white wire is 2. So we'll hook that up to 2. Motor number 3 is going to ESC1, and this is it here. The first white wire is ESC1, so we're going to put that here. Pretty simple. Okay, and we have a red and black wire here, and we're feeding power to the controller. Motor number 4 is going to ESC3, so that should be our third white wire. And let's just make sure. And I'm going to kind of put this through here. And indeed it is. The first white wire, second, third white wire. Okay. So we're going to connect that. And we're done. So we're going to set this on top. We already have our spacers on. And we're going to put this on top, and there we go. Makes a nice, neat job. Now I want to go ahead and get a piece of tape, and I'm just going to, we could take this wire out of the harness, but like I was saying earlier, I'm going to use this on something else, or we're going to use this port, and we'll do that in the future. So I'm going to do that, keep it from shorting out on anything. And we're going to tuck that away right there. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and put the nuts on. And you kind of want to be careful. You know, you're going to have some exposed electronics. So if you use something to tighten the nuts up, and you're not careful with it, you can, you know, dislodge some of the parts here, and of course it wouldn't work. So a good way to do this is just to hold the nut with your finger and use a Phillips screwdriver and tighten it up. And that way you'll never run into a problem of you know, messing up the board. So you don't have to tighten them up too tight, and we'll snug them all up first, and then we'll do the finish tightening. Okay, so doing it with the rest of them. Now we're on the last one. And the only thing I'm doing is with one finger holding the nut on there so it won't spin, and tightening up the screws. And you'll see that it's kind of pulling it in a little bit. You don't want to go too much further than that. That'll do a pretty good job. And we'll see. We'll try it here and see. It's moving a little bit. So let's tighten it up a little bit more. Just, you know, kind of be gentle with it. And you'll get it to a point where they're all tight. Okay. There you go. And now if you try to move it, it's nice and tight. Okay? Good job. And that's what it'll look like when it's all done. And again, it pulls it in a little bit, not very much. And you can tell it makes a nice, neat job. Okay? So now we have our motors tied in to the controller. The controller's installed. This is where we're going to tie in our USB in the future. We have our spacers in, so nothing's touching. If you do not put these spacers, you'll want to touch the other and you'll have a problem. It'll short out. So you have your spacers in, this tightened up, nice, we're done. So now we're ready to install our receiver. That's going to be next. We'll talk to you in a bit.